a concept. It's an idea. It's a piece of paper. It's a meaningless piece of paper, and it's, the symbol, it's a symbol. If you have a desert island and you're on it and you're stuck and somebody drops $1 million there, that's not going to help you. So it's not about the money. It's about all of the concepts, ideas, and energies that symbol holds.
Today, I'd like to welcome back to the show a very, very special friend and previous mentor of mine, Natalie Speakman. Welcome back, Natalie. It's an honor to have you on the show again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christina. Happy to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to you today. For the audience, we're going to talk about our money mindset today. And just to give a little bit of background, I am going to be joining Natalie in an 8-week program. Is that correct? An 8-week program that is all about your money mindset. And I wanted to talk to you today because I'm so excited. It starts June 1st, so about a week from now. And I just want to have this platform available so other people can join along if they want to, or maybe just listen to this episode and take away a lot of wisdom. Because I know that right now in this world, there is a lot of people struggling. Inflation is outrageous, and there's a lot of lack in this world that can be shifted.
Totally.
So with that being said, if we could just start off with you giving a little bit about your background that led you to launching this program.
Yeah, great. Happy to share. So I am a spiritual life coach, a Reiki Master Teacher, an intuitive, and have struggled with money mindset, my entire life, still do. And also I've made strides. And so that is what has led to the launch of this program. It was almost a year ago that out of nowhere, out of absolutely nowhere, I received like thousands and thousands of dollars. Just like, it was amazing. And it was very interesting because I had this appreciation for about like 1 minute before the stories came in, because it wasn't enough to like solve all my money problems forever, but it was enough to make a difference, but it wasn't like that much. So immediately my mind was like, but wait, oh my God, it's not enough. We need more. And I was like, isn't this so interesting? It's not even about receiving this money. The money is not curing what's going on in here. And that was a huge spiritual awakening moment. And so that's kind of where I pinpoint the start of this phase of the journey, where I then dove deeper into this topic and shifting my mindset and then creating this program.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I noticed as you were sharing that I was having memories of times where I've received large amounts of money, and I don't even think there was a minute of appreciation. It was automatically a fear of what happens when that runs out, or a fear of myself actually, spending it all. And something you mentioned that is really interesting is similar to my experience. There have been times in my life where I've been in, I'm going to use a term called financial abundance because I think abundance is much bigger than just having a lot of money. But I've had times where I've had financial abundance, and then I've had times where I haven't. So you mentioned you go into strides, and I'm curious if you have found why that may occur. I know that you and I cannot be the only ones that have experienced that. So why do we go in and out of financial abundance?
Ooh, I don't know. You tell me. That's a great question. Wow. My mind, from like my spiritual woo-woo standpoint, is like bringing in, because astrology, because actually that receiving last year was in my Jupiter return, which is the perfect time when that sort of thing comes out of nowhere. And it was in my 8th house, which is other inheritance. So, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like that question doesn't have a necessarily A to B direct answer, that many things could be at play there.
Mhm.
So I don't even know like where to take it to. Astrology, take it to karma, take it to our thoughts create our reality. And when those results come, you know, who knows what the refractory period is.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, there could be so many reasons. And it's interesting how you mentioned astrology and certain parts of your chart. I just recently interviewed someone who wrote a book about manifestation, and it's called The Eight Keys or something like that. You can go check out my page if you'd like to watch that interview. But what he said was that there's a mix of fate and free will.
ah,
And that, you know, if there's someone here to learn their lessons through having a lot of money, there's nothing that person can do to not have it. And
oh,
if you're a person here to, which I feel resistance to what I'm about to say, but he said that if you're a person who's here to learn your spiritual lessons through not having enough money, there's nothing you can do to
ah.
attract it. So, you know, I'm still wrestling with all this. This is why I'm doing your program, because I know there's, when I listen to my mind, there are so many things that I'm saying to myself about money. And I would love it if we could just go in the direction of why does anyone really actually struggle with money in general, whether it's managing it or keeping it or attracting it, or any problems that people might have with money.
Well, I mean, it's a concept. It's an idea. It's a piece of paper. It's a meaningless piece of paper, and it's, you know, the symbol, it's a symbol. If you have a desert island and you're on it and you're stuck and somebody drops $1 million there, that's not going to help you. So it's not about the money. It's about all of the concepts, ideas, and energies that that symbol holds. And I mean, for honestly, and I love that we're in a spiritual space that we can be and, you know, say whatever we want, or I'm going to say whatever I want. But it's like generational and it's ancestral,
Mhm.
and it's like part of the collective. You know, we have this collective idea, you know, lack and scarcity and struggle. It's been throughout the history of humanity, the haves, the have nots. The haves have been so few, you know, the few hold the power, you know, over the many. And so I feel like yes, of course, it's about us and how we spend our next dollar right now. And also there's a bigger picture here. We're not alone in this. We're all connected. So, you know, and then if we go back to childhood where everything begins, what were we programmed with by the parents or parental figures around money? They were programmed with it. And it's just like, well, where do you stop pointing the finger? So you just can't. So you just don't point at all because it goes so far back.
Yeah, I love that. We can't really point the finger. There's a point to where we can point the finger, but if we really want to have a different experience, it's up to us really to tune into what is that block that's keeping us from attracting that abundance that we want. And I know for myself, because I've done a lot of work on this. I've been working on this for years and years and years. I have, you know, several things at play. And one of those is that, which I believe is collective. I do think it came from my parents, but I believe it's the collective. And I know you're in Thailand, so it might be a little bit different there, but I know
Ollie.
Bali now. Okay, Bali. But in the United States, it's you have to work hard and you have to hustle. And if you're not doing that, then money isn't going to come to you. And then to
Mm,
add to that, there's just this overall sense of, am I worthy of just not struggling? That's where I'm at today. It's been a lot of
Mm.
diving into, my worth and knowing my worth. But today for me, I know it's about this belief that, do I really believe that I'm worthy of not struggling?
Mm. And what is your answer?
I'm I have new thoughts that
Okay.
are being introduced, we'll say, but that belief is really strong. So I'll give an example of something I've been doing lately is setting my alarm on my phone every 10 minutes and bringing those new thoughts in to create a new belief. And I'm doing this every 10 minutes. So in that 10 minutes, I can tell you every single time there's some worry or fear that still
Mm.
comes up. So that's about where I'm at. That's why I'm so excited to do your program because I want to know what else can I really do? Because I do believe that our thoughts and our beliefs create our reality. And I do believe that we can change our beliefs. But
Totally.
that's about as far as I've gotten so far. So I'd love for you to maybe outline some of the things that we might be exploring in your program.
Yeah, sure. And thank you for sharing and, appreciate your honesty and vulnerability with what you're up against. And, um, I've got stuff too. We all have things. Um, so in thinking about, I do believe that in an ultimate sense, we are sovereign in that, okay, yes, astrology and yes, karma and yes, fate. And also ultimately it's up to us. It's all possible if we choose to believe that. What happens with the money story and the energies, and when we get into lack and scarcity and patterns of that, it's this disempowerment where we feel like there's nothing we can do, that it's out of our control. And it's like, well, I got a job and this is what they're paying me, and I can't make any more with the skill. Like we get into that 3D shit. And then we feel like we're at the mercy of our finances. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this program and the things that we're going to be doing are part of a plan to shift into action that we take so that we take our power back, basically, or not even take it back, because I know for me, I don't feel like I ever had it from the upbringing and the stories and the childhood money stuff that I came from. So it's this journey to empowerment, and it takes first. So we're going to be using mainly this book called Overcoming Under Earning by Barbara Stanny. It's very popular. People have had amazing results from following this program. It's a 5-step process. So it's a tangible process through this book. It will take you from A to Z by the end of this process. So by the end of this program, because the book is the program in the process, along with a couple other additions, but it's the core of it. People, you, me, everyone, we will have a plan in it to implement in place to move forward and create abundance and overcome under earning. And we will also incorporate, I'll be doing some Reiki ancestral clearing, which is something I do that can help shift that. We will be looking at, there's another book called How to Solve All Your Money Problems Forever by Victor Bach. It's a very simple process. I'll be bringing that in, along with one idea from this book called Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Danielle Duffield Thomas. And can I share like my favorite practice from that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can I say one thing
Yeah.
though about that? What was the second book you mentioned?
How to Solve All Your Money Problems Forever.
how to solve all your money problems forever. So I actually recently started doing one of the practices in there where you write your affirmations. I'm really actually super huge on affirmations right now, but not just affirming things, by really actually looking at the objections that are coming from my subconscious as I'm doing it. But I just want to say this as a testimony to Natalie. So about a year ago, when after I lost my job, she recommended that book to me. And in the book, I wrote that I was going to go to Hawaii for my 10th AA birthday, which was December 7th of last year. And I went, but I also went 2 more times after that.
Wow.
And so I just, I really, really super affirmed that as I was writing it. I was like, this is going to happen. I don't know how, and I don't need to know how, but it's really going to happen. And anything that came up that said, no, 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 it's not going to happen. I'd paid attention to it, and I was like, oh, that's just an old thought. And I let those thoughts go, and it actually did manifest for me. And so
Wow.
that book is amazing. I have it. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because I know how powerful some of these works can be. And while I do have the Overcoming Under
Woo!
I've not heard of this Get Rich Lucky Bitch. So let me have it.
Totally. And there's also an app, Get Rich Lucky Bitch app, that's great because you can track your earnings or whatever, your money creations, and you can also track value that you've received. So if somebody buys you a coffee or blah, 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 you can add that in as value, and you make a money goal every month. And so I like tracking my income in that way.
Yeah.
So the practice from Get Rich Lucky Bitch, just to zoom right in to that, is really powerful. First, you go back through your life and you start with your earliest money memory. The first thing you can remember, anything about your parents or you or whatever. And these are not positive memories. And you go through your entire life, you brainstorm and you write out every single memory about money or incident where money was involved, where it was stressful or challenging or unpleasant. It sounds like a big task, but it really, if you just do it and get focused, it just takes 20 or 30 minutes max. And that might
I've
be
had
something.
probably 10 memories come up just since you said that right now.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I think it will be pretty easy to do that exercise.
Yes, yes. And some people, I mean, be discerning. If you do have a lot, like, don't spend an hour and get all into your head, like take a break and, do it in 2 parts if you need to, or something like that. After you have that list, then what you do once a day is you go through every memory. And again, you don't need to lose yourself in it, but just bring it to mind, feel that energy in the body. And then you do ho'oponopono around that memory.
Mm.
And you do that around all of those memories, and you do that every day. And what you'll notice is some of them will lose their charge. When they lose their charge, you take them off the list. And then more will come up as you're sort of in that mindset of remembering that stuff, or maybe new things might happen and you work with that. So I feel like that's a very powerful practice.
I love that because I also have had experience of this, maybe not in this context because I haven't done that exercise, but we have to feel sometimes when I get into this lack or fear of not having enough or fear that something's going to get shut off because I can't pay the bill. Most of the time my instinct is to push that away, just push that feeling away. Oh, think positive, go back to I deserve whatever I want, right? And that actually can be a disservice to us. And so I know a lot of people watching this probably know that the Ho'oponopono, did I say it right?
I don't know. I don't know if I am.
Right. I know what it is. I just don't know how to pronounce it, but I'd love it if you could just share what that process is. So for anyone that is not able to join but is really wanting to break through with any kind of money issues they're having, that they could do this process from get rich lucky bitch and, you know, make strides in their own life.
Yeah, totally. I know. I just totally I mean, because I know you know what it means. Just made an assumption there. So thank you. Yeah. So very, very briefly, there's a whole big story around this. You can find out everything you want to know on the internet about Ho'oponopono. But it's a Hawaiian prayer. And it's basically 4 statements. And this is just the simplest version of this, but it's all you need to know to do it if you don't know what it is. So the 4 statements are: thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. Thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. You can say those in any order you want that feels good. A lot of people say them, you know, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And again, there's a whole thing behind it I'm not going to go into for right now, but you can figure it out, or you can reach out. Christina can share. So with each money memory that you have, then for me, I start with thank you. One of my life coaches taught me that, and I love it because it's like, thank you to the memory for bringing up something unhealed within me. So I love that. So I start with thank you, and then I'm sorry for whatever part within me has created this. You know, not that there's a judgment, or I try not to get bogged down into that, but I'm sorry, please forgive me to whatever. Like, I love you. It's more about the energy of that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so you were with each money memory, just feeling into that, saying those in your mind out loud, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I want to highlight the starting with thank you, because there's so much to be said about appreciation and gratitude. And I think we talked about this before, you and I, in our episodes, and the episode I just recently published, we talked about this, where, you know, everything is happening for us, not to us. So even just like, even if we have our memories and we can get into that, that doesn't feel good, right? And kind of move into that victim space. The minute we say thank you, now we're coming from a place of like, oh, right, this is for us, not to us. We're not a victim anymore. And then even open up, you know, some space for gratitude and appreciation with that.
I love that. Yeah, so true.
Yeah. So, okay. So we're going to go through overcoming under earning. We're going to go through some practices in solving all of your money problems. I think I said that right. I have the book not near me, but
How to solve all
how
your
to
money
solve.
problems forever. So it's a
Right.
mouthful.
Yeah. And that's a 2-prong process. And then get rich, lucky bitch, this exercise. So I'm curious, what else will people possibly experience as a result of going through this program with you?
Yeah, well, so the program is about doing the inner and outer work. The inner work is like what we've been talking about, you know. The inner work is changing mindset, beliefs, first being aware of them, as you say you're very aware, which is great. We've got to start with that. You know, the affirmations, feeling into the energy, looking at where this conditioning came from. We do a money autobiography exercise, looking at our values. What are our deepest core values? And when we act from those, then we will feel fulfilled and at purpose. But it's not just sitting here doing all this, you know, that can help, but it's like Victor Bach's book. It's a 2-pronged approach, but not just his book is 2 very simple steps that are 2-pronged. This book has many practices for the inner work and the outer work.
Mhm.
The outer work is the action. And this is where It's going to be uncomfortable. This is where we're going to come up against our comfort zone and our discomfort zone. And this is where, you know, if we're in old patterns of under earning, if we want to call it that, or lack or scarcity, that it's going to take an overcoming and a recreating and in a not re-becoming, a becoming or up leveling of who we are, because, you know, the results we have in our lives in for anything is because of, you know, the thoughts we've had and the actions we've taken or not taken. So in order to create new results, we've got to do something different. And again, that's with, you know, both the thoughts and the actions. So, you know, this is the part that as I dove deeper into this book, for me, I'm in recovery as well. I know you shared about that. For me, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be like getting sober. Like, seriously.
Well, I love that you said that, because what's been coming up for me, as I've looked through this book, and I haven't read it, I haven't started reading it. I've just kind of flipped through pages and looked at stuff and went, oh, wow, this is going to be a lot. And just before we started recording, I looked through again, just how I've been, just kind of flipping through like, what's this about? And interestingly, I landed on ways to tell that you're in resistance.
Ooh.
So, like, I imagine, I mean, I've had some resistance even in this conversation, like,
Oh.
you know, and not like, well, just when you say the action, right? And I'm an action oriented person, but I'm like, what am I going to you know, what is that action? And so I noticed that is resistance. But even just some of the exercises that I've seen before, I'm like, my resistance to it is, well, I've already done that. I've
Oh
already gone
yeah.
this, you know? And so when I read this list of ways that, you know, we can tell if we're in resistance, I'm imagining there might be people listening that might be feeling some resistance. So I'd love it if we could talk about how to tell, not just how to tell if you're feeling resistance, but maybe how to feel and deal with the resistance as well to break through and actually get
Oh,
the action.
yes, yes. I love that you flipped to the book. Of course you did. And, you know, it needed to come in right now because I love that you shared you even now have resistance. And even me talking about the action, I feel something in my third chakra,
Yeah,
like a
that's right.
tightening. Or maybe I'm feeling yours or mine or both or
Maybe.
all. Yeah. So yeah. So this is where the reframing gets to come from. And even what you said of like, this is all, it's happening for us, not to us. It's sort of, it's a shift in that way of the resistance, the fear, the resistance is actually showing us the action we need to take. It's something to move toward, not to shrink away from. So that's a very powerful reframing, because we're wired to, oh, I feel afraid, let me go back into comfort zone. But so this is about the resistance is showing us that we need to take whatever the step is that we're thinking about. So it, you know, nobody can make you do anything. The plan of action that everyone's going to create in this program is going to, I'm not going to be like, here's your list of things to do. It's going to come from you. Now I might be like, how are you doing on those things? But it's not going to be, it's, you're going to create it from within yourself, because everyone's different with their own life circumstances.
Mhm.
So you will come up with that. So the number one thing in the book, it says the number one requirement for overcoming under earning, and we can make that be an umbrella for lack, scarcity, and old patterns and mindsets, is the willingness to be uncomfortable. And I love that
Yeah.
so much. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. I know I for a long time, I have been paying attention to where I'm in resistance, or, you know, discerning between what's resistance or what's an actual no. like from my intuition. And that's been quite a journey. And I love how you just said that it's the willingness to be uncomfortable, because growth is never comfortable. If this was easy, if this was, something that was going to feel good the whole way through, like we'd all just be in abundance of everything all the time. We'd have an abundance of friends, an abundance of, travel, an abundance of whatever it is that we're wanting, and an abundance of money. And so the willingness to be uncomfortable is, the way I see it is that our conditioning and our patterns, it's just running through us like a program. And so when something disrupts that, even a little bit, whether we're aware of it or not, or we can see it, like some of us can see our patterns, but when anything disrupts it, whenever there's a change in pattern, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so even picking up this book for me sometimes and flipping through it is like, oh, okay. Like now I can see that the resistance, the uncomfortableness is that there's actually going to be some change happening. And somehow I can intuitively pick up on it. And that's where my resistance is coming from.
It's a signal to turn towards the thing, and that to take the action, not to avoid it. And that's such a shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a recovered addict, I've learned that avoiding is my first go-to, escaping and running away and not actually looking at it or leaning towards it. So that makes sense why I would feel resistance in that way.
Me too. Well, and if we label this as under earning and under earners, avoid, and so there's 5 steps to overcoming under earning that the book takes you through. Number 1 is tell the truth about your finances. So it's so interesting how on with 12 step it is, because it's sort of like step 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first step is tell the truth. I'm curious if we could just go through the steps of.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I know them, and also I'm going to look at my page just to make sure that I say them all correctly.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm looking at my screen. I've created this amazing workbook. I've worked on it, I swear, like 50 hours. So that's, the big thing about what everyone's going to get. So from that, I have this on here. So, tell the truth about what's not working and what is number 1. Number 2, which is also 12-step themed, make a firm decision about what you truly want. So it's a little different, but make a firm decision about what you truly want. Number 3, look for opportunities to stretch by doing what you think you can't do. That's where the resistance and what we've been talking about comes in. Number 4, surround yourself with a supportive community. Now that one, people in scarcity, lack, and under earning thrive in isolation and try to do everything by themselves. So this one, although it seems like, oh yeah, community, whatever, actually no, like in the book, the author says that the difference between the people who were successful and not was them creating community. So that's going to be a big part. And of course, the group program is a community, and also there's got to be more too. So that's step 4. Step 5, respect and appreciate money by taking good care of it. So those are the 5 steps.
So what does taking good care of money mean?
Yeah, respect and appreciate money and take good care of it. I know for me, and this is a change I've been making, I've created a certain level of abundance, and also I've got issues still or whatever. Like that's part of why I'm doing this as well, and etc. But I have gone from like one extreme to the other of like scarcity and lack and holding on to every dollar, and I can't afford this, and oh my God, I'm checking all of this stuff. Like I was living paycheck to paycheck, a long time ago. in my old job. And then as I've created more abundance, I'm like, spend, spend, spend. I can do this. I'm abundant. To me, that's not respecting or appreciating money. It's not about the spending. It's that it's just, it's willy-nilly. There's an energy underneath it that it's not right. And so now, as a result of what I'm up to and creating this and what I'm doing, I'm like, okay, when I spend this dollar, it means more. I value this more than before. So it's a subtle shift, but part of that too, is, spoiler alert, at the end of the program, you're going to have a spending plan, which is another word for a budget, which, like how many people have resistance to that word, but it's a spending plan, and it actually is freedom within that. Just like recovery from anything. It's like, oh my God, I'm an alcoholic and addict. I've got to give up my drinking. Well, the thing that you think you're giving up is like the thing that's going to give you the biggest freedom on the other side, that feels like a restriction, but in actuality is a freedom. Or even like a food program, I'm sugar free. Like, oh, I have to give up sugar. I can never have it again. Well, there's freedom in that structure of, what I'm eating and not eating. So this is the same.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know that as soon as, well, I have read it in the book before because I have looked through, I needed to know what those 5 steps were. I can't wait. My mind is just so inquisitive. And when you said it, I noticed that feeling of what does that, even mean? Because, there's a lot of teachers out there that, will say that, just spend it and don't worry about it because, the person who trusts that it's going to come back is going to be the one in abundance. But then there's also, not spiritual teachers that are very, very wealthy. And they're telling you, you've got to save, you've got to save. And so like, as an addict, as a recovered addict, I am very extreme. I always go to one or the other. And I think that's probably one of the most confusing things for me is like, what does it actually mean to respect and appreciate money and take good care of it? And I think, honestly, I think that's probably my biggest challenge is taking good care of it.
Taking good care of it. Well, we want to look at then too, what does it represent? I know I had some coaching before and the coach was like, it represents love. And she like took me back through to like my mother and it just, so it's, again, it's not about the money, right? There's something underneath.
Right. And I find too that sometimes when I am making a purchase, that there's a voice, there's something there that is just telling me like, this is a bad decision. You shouldn't do it. And so I think, again, it's probably where I get the most tripped up is like, well, like I should feel buyer's remorse. Like there's some belief that I should feel buyer's remorse. But then there's also this like, conflicting belief that's like, well, there's infinite amount of money. So I can do this. And then there's also those in between spaces where I know that I probably shouldn't be making that purchase, that really the value of it, like I'm never going to use that thing again, or I'm never going to wear that, dress, or I'm never going to. And so I think that, when you pay attention, you can find those places where you're not taking good care of money. Not all of it in some way can be true too, that there is an abundance, there is an infinite amount of money. Abundance is infinite.
Yeah.
There is enough for everyone to have more than enough, right?
And have you heard the like quote that, you know, if you took all the money in the world, you divided it equally among every single person on the planet, at some point it's going to end up exactly where it was before, because it's not about the money.
Right. Right. So I know we've said this many, many times, and I know we've kind of gone, into a few things like ancestral wounds, our charts, our conditioning. Um, but I'd like to move into that space of, really talking about when you say it's not really about money. And earlier you said something too about how it's like a piece of paper, and rarely now does anyone actually hold cash, right? Like
Right.
I tell my kids, like it's literally numbers on a screen. Like, it's not even physical money. So I'd love it if we could talk about like what it actually is as far as like the energetics around money. If it's not about the money, what is it about?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think earlier I said, it's a symbol, it's an energy, it's a placeholder for whatever we believe about life, about ourselves, about our worth, about love, about, finances, whatever that means. Um, and if you go back to the Overcoming Under Earning book, she says that the root of this is low self-esteem and codependency. So if we look at our relationship with ourselves, and then bringing in money is kind of that reflection of that, we could look at it in that way as well. And yes, the ancestral stuff and generational stuff and gender and roles and all of that as well. I just got off my live stream. I'm live on Insight Timer many times a week. And this came up, because I do cards in the lives, and it just came up. And so I did ancestral clearing there around breaking contracts or of like vows of poverty, or chastity, or I know that's not on this topic, but I cleared for that, as well as clearing for contracts within that were not, everything was not above board, or everything was not known, or somebody was taking advantage of somebody else. Um, so that can all be at play as well.
And how do we actually uncover or unveil? Like, as you were speaking, I remembered a couple of conversations that I've had with past life regression specialists, and um, the concept of coming here to experience lack, like we wanted to experience it to overcome it, or like what you just said, contracts, or like how do we really even know where or what that is? Like what can we do to unveil that for our own personal self, if it can be so many different things?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's amazing. We have so many resources in the world today, like almost infinite, well, not infinite, but so much information. Um, I feel like you're meant to find whatever teachings or support or methods or tools or ways. For me, if they come into my field, well, that's something to pay attention to. I know for me, the ancestral clearing has been, that definitely found me and has been a huge part of my process and what I offer to others, and it's been very transformational. Um, I think the caution would be for somebody that has a history of scarcity and lack is it's easy to stay over here and just try and figure this stuff out, and can they, blame, oh, it's because I took a vow of poverty and I can't break it, blah, blah, lifetimes ago. We don't want to get stuck in that. And people can, and then it's just like, well, I don't have to, it's not my fault, I don't have to do anything. Sorry, Natalie, the life coach is going to be like, nah, I'm not. Yes, and yes, and who are you going to send your resume to today? Who are you going to call today? What client are you going to tell you're raising your prices to today? Like, what past due bill that's owed to you are you going to reach out and get? Like that stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So both.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I just want to chime in. Like, I have been doing a lot of work on a lot of different things since since before I got sober, when I got out of treatment for the eating disorder. And, for me, it feels like there's been layers of things. Like I did an ancestral, mother wound healing. And in that process, I actually found that I actually don't know how to receive. And that came from the ancestral stuff. It's a
Hmm.
lineage of stuff. And then in recent work, I've just, started really paying attention to what I believe. And, so it can be a combination of things and it can be layers of things. And I think that it's really what resonates with us the most is what's up for healing at the time. And like you said, especially before I got sober, I was probably the best victim to life that anyone could be. And we can choose to stay stuck or be a victim to something, but we are actually infinite and we can choose to have a different we can create our own experience. And so when we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, we there's resources for us to take action and to create a new experience for us in this life. And that's all we have here. So, okay, that's all I have to say. I'm
Oh,
curious
that's
if
great.
there is anything else that you want to add about the books that are going to be a part of the program, something we haven't mentioned, or just anything in general.
Yeah. I feel like, like it's about becoming and creating ourselves. So one of my favorite books is Conversations with God. I'm doing a long-term live stream series in Insight Timer, and it's also on my YouTube as replays of that book. And basically, that's what's echoing in my head right now is our soul came to the body into life for the purpose of evolving and becoming. We're not here in an earth school to learn something new. It's to demonstrate what we already know. And that really makes sense to me. And so we get to be and decide who we want to be. And it's a process of becoming and realizing self-realization and awakening. And that takes constant monitoring of the thoughts, which is what you said you're demonstrating, which is awesome because all the teachers say that at the end of the day, you cannot just, I mean, if you're waking up, which we are, if you're hearing this, and then you can't turn it off, you can't ignore it, you can't go back. And it's just a constant moment to moment, being aware of your thinking and choosing differently. And it does get easier and it does get better. One of my favorite quotes from the book, Under Earning, is, are you willing to be more uncomfortable than you are for a while? For a while. So even earlier, that's what came in when you were talking, about the buyer's remorse and the purchases and stuff. It's like, it's not going to be that way forever when you create this new structure. I mean, it's basically like getting sober around money and having a new lifestyle. It's going to be uncomfortable for a while, but then you're going to create abundance and then you're going to have a new relationship with that money and you're not going to be struggling with the same problems. I mean, when I got sober 25 years ago, I was pregnant in jail. I had 30 years of federal drug charges over me. I mean, I haven't had those problems in 25 years. Right? Those were my drunk problems. Now, so the lack and under earning and scarcity is showing up as, oh, can I pay my bill? Blah, 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 and all that stuff. But, there is another side to it and an up leveling and a becoming. So one of my, another favorite quote I just read or heard recently was that the action is the becoming. It starts with our thoughts.
Mhm.
And also then the action. Like yesterday I was walking and I've been dealing with an old pattern of stuff, thoughts and energy. And I just was like, I'm not going to do this. It feels like I can't help it. It feels like I'm a victim. It feels like, my thoughts are overwhelming me and there's nothing I can do. And then I sit there and watch them and I'm watching this. So at least I can see it. But then the victim comes in of like, I can't get out of it, which is not true. It feels like that. But my action was, I had an intention. I am going to overcome myself on this walk. I am not going to give into the old thoughts and patterns. And I am who do I want to be? I want to be free. I want to be peaceful. I want to be joyful. I want to be connected, present, loving, my core values. And so I affirmed that as I walked. And, even if I wasn't walking, that's still an action in the mind of overcoming myself and creating myself and becoming the different version that I want to be. And in my live stream earlier, this is the card that came out in the reading, the creator. And so that keeps going into my head during this whole thing. And it's like, this is it. We're the creators. So there you go.
Yes, we are the creators. Thank you for all of that and for this conversation. I love that the program that you're about to do, the money mindset program that I'm going to join, is action oriented. As a coach, I, am giving assignments to my clients. And when they come back to me and they say, well, it's not working, I'm like, well, are you doing it? And most of the time they say no. And, it's called a practice because we have to be taking action. And, I'm sure that anyone can kind of connect to, maybe something that's not as charged. Like for me, this whole money thing is super charged. And so it's a little bit thicker. It's harder for me to really, kind of unveil by myself. But recently I was asked back in April, my niece had asked me if I would run a marathon with her. And when she asked me, it was like, no, I had an eating disorder. I was addicted to running. I was so unhealthy. And as I heard myself say no, I heard those thoughts. And then I also heard, but there's a healthy way to do this. And then we were at the zoo and like, it felt like everything glowed around me. And it was just like, I couldn't not say no. It was like, yes. And I made it a point to watch my mind even more so. And just like you explained with your walk, when I was on my runs, like I'm injured right now, so I have to take a month off. But even that, it's like I can feel these moments where it's like, there's thoughts of you're not going to be able to run this marathon, or you're never going to be able to run again. Like you're screwed or you're fucked or whatever. And it's like, what, I don't have to believe that, I don't have to believe that. And I do get to create my reality. And the only reason why we think it's hard to run a marathon is because everyone has collectively agreed that 26.2 miles is an extremely long amount of running to do. But that's just because we've agreed to it. Like it's really that simple. And so we can apply that to anything. And I can't think my way to running a marathon. I have to take the action. I have to do the training. I have to run in order to complete that. And one of the reasons why I actually said yes to is so that I can teach that as I'm doing it. And so I love that this is so wrapped around action, because that's really what it takes. Yes, we have to be. Yes, we have to just be, but there's also an inspired action that needs to take place too.
Yeah. And sometimes an uncomfortable, like action that just everything is saying no. And the scariest one. And you've already taken so much action, like since I've known you, we'll just say that.
Yeah.
You're capable.
I do. Yeah. Sometimes I overdo it, but But that's just how I made up in this lifetime. The overachiever. So, well, Natalie, this has been so much fun. I'm so excited. The program, the Money Mindset program with Natalie, starts June 1st for anyone who's interested. Natalie, how does someone sign up for this if they're feeling a little inspired or a lot inspired and just a little bit uncomfortable?
Yeah, well, time is ticking. By the time people see this, there will just be a few days left. At this moment, there's 3 spots. So if you want to apply to those, and we can have a conversation, or we can connect and see if you might be a good fit. You can go to my website, Natalie M as in Mary Speakman, nataliemspeakman.com. I'm on, or connect, I'm on Facebook, Insta with that name, YouTube with that name. You can just find that everywhere. On my website, I have a web page called Money Mindset. If you want to read some general details, pretty much, you're getting much more of an essence of it through here. And also you can check that out. Send me a message. We'll see if you're a good fit and go from there.
Awesome. I'll be sure to include all of that information in the links in the description of this show so that it's easy to find for anyone who might be wanting to join the program or just connect with Natalie. So again, this has been such a fun conversation, and I am just so honored to have you in my life. I can't wait. And for anyone who's watching, stay tuned, because on my socials, I'm going to be sharing my experience as I go through this program. Woo! Natalie and the community. I'm really excited about the community. That's kind of a built-in thing since we're all joining in together. So thank you. Thank you so much. Great. It's been such an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
I would like to personally thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you haven't already, please be sure to like this episode, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications so that you never miss a beat. And if you really resonated with this content, please share it with all of your friends so that collectively we can expand our consciousness. Have a very blessed week.